see whether or not the Red Giants will be able to take this 2-0, or if Smart Omega will show us that they are not past their glory days. Like you guys already mentioned, Smart Omega has a lot of crowd control to work with, and with a hero like Grok, it does mean that they can already exert some pressure on the map quite early on. But you do also have to be quite careful, because the... Oh, hold on.
Ouch, that is actually quite a lot of damage. I mean, we're talking about level 3 Julian after all.
That's the one thing about Julian as well. He reaches his peak at level 3 rather than level 4. That a lot of other junglers would have to wait for before they're truly able to fight. And that means that the timeline for this hero is a lot earlier, which is very appropriate for a meta where early game aggression is promoted.
So, at least for the side of Judo Red Giants, they absolutely prioritize this Harif as much as possible. Since they know about the Julian at level 3 spike, they will want to keep the Cho somewhere around the corner. While middle lane, they're gonna have to leave Zask to his own devices. I mean, he does have Nightmarish spawn, so it may not be as bad as you expected.
Yeah, on paper, we should definitely see more attention from the Red Giants towards gold lane, because Terizla is Terizla, Zaz can handle himself, and we already know that Harif needs to win lane against Claude.
But Sekais here have decided to join into the fray while absorbing, or rather eating, almost the entirety of that enhanced side. Cram immediately flickers himself towards his turret just to make sure that he don't get caught out by Ryota or Ukir. Ukir is still a tad bit more to level 4, and there we go, level 4 already, pretty much prepared to go big or go home.
We do see the worry about the threat of the lantern, though. The fact that Cram just immediately flickered out to make sure he wouldn't get thrown into the rest of Omega shows how scary it can be.
Chaknu and Yums, both of which are not at level 4 just yet. And now Chaknu is already at level 4. Yums is still not there yet. Julian manages to take down the turtle while Stormy draws first blood onto this Julian. Was it worth it?
I do think that from a team perspective, getting Turtle is more important, but from an individual micro perspective, being able to trade Turtle for first blood on the enemy jungle is very valuable, especially in a Roger versus Julian situation, because the latter should usually be the one coming out on top. You could see that Omega were focused very heavily on stopping Sky, so they weren't really protecting their jungler.
Oh, we do have the Blazing Duet from Jom. Did manage to bring Yums all the way down to a sliver. Chaknu, is he going to go for something more cheeky here? Technically, he could go for a flicker out, but that would have been a waste.
Yeah, it's not a position just yet, because Jom just used Blazing Duet, and we know that early game, without that, Claude really doesn't do much damage at all. So it wouldn't be a very effective usage of resources. And because of that, Rudo Red Giants will feel safe enough to continue roaming around the map for now.
Cram walking right over to the middle lane. He's taking quite a lot of damage. What a Zaman Force just going to be popped as well. Yums have managed to successfully bring the Juicin down almost immediately before Juicin even managed to pop anything when it comes down to the Crimson Beacon.
A really nice two-pronged attack. Ukir was so distracted by trying to pick up the Terizla that he failed to notice Yums coming from the opposite side and kicking him into the Red Giants, thereby preventing a fight from starting on Smart Omega's terms.
It kind of seems as though the Red Giants would want to come in from many of various different angles in order for them to really get something. Since there's a lot of things that Smart Omega really have to keep in mind of. Yums, nice flicker along with the Jacundo in order to be able to pick up onto Endoryu. But Yudo Red Giants doesn't seem like they're stopping anytime soon just yet. They're still posturing themselves until they realize, okay, let's take a chill pill.
We just saw another reason why Zast is so strong right now. Stormy was literally being pincered by 4 members of Omega. He pops into his ultimate, and he's just absolutely fine. Even able to mass stun and buy time for the rest of the Red Giants to come by and provide backup and get another kill on Endoryu. We immediately see the Red Giants controlling this early game again.
Like as though nothing happened.
Oh.
In the meantime, down in the bottom lane, Yums has suffered so much damage. But because of Chaknu's barrier, has managed to make sure that he blocks out Yums' escape. That is a roamer for a roamer trade. Nothing too valuable being lost.
Yeah, it's not too bad though, because Smart Omega are behind. Being able to trade 1-for-1 is pretty good, even forcing out some extra resources from the Red Giants. Unfortunately, the turtle still gonna take another 80 seconds before it comes up, so the timeline of that wasn't the most efficient from Omega.
I would say that Yudo Red Giants, they have definitely been on the ball quite a lot, but most of these games, or most of these fights really comes down to the middle lane, and it's been more or less a brawl game thus far. Why is that so?
Because again, EXP lane going to be totally fine. Even Cram has actually already unlocked himself from the lane, so he's able to start roaming over to mid. And by putting more of their resources in the mid lane, Red Giants understands that Omega is a team that needs to fight together. Thereby, by putting themselves in the mid lane, they're actually indirectly drawing attention away from Innocent as well.
So they're just pretty much pulling the EXP play in the middle lane instead.
Because they know that, like, if Smart Omega ignores them and goes for a full gank onto Innocent, yes, Harif might die, but they unlock mid lane priority.
Okay. So it's all about a game of trade. Whichever that they would prefer to trade out.
And for Smart Omega, they know that they cannot afford to trade mid-tier 1 for Innocent. One kill on Harif won't affect him too much at this stage, but
the middle
losing
lane,
free access and safe access to their jungle is hugely detrimental, especially against Yudu Red Giants.
So Smart Omega understood that they gotta have to make sure that their tier 1 stays alive as much as possible. So fights in here is unfortunately something that they will have no choice but to admit themselves into. Jom did unleash himself into a blazing duet all the way at the backlines, but he's still gonna be safe and sound. Sekai's HP all the way down to his liver. He still wants to be around, but unfortunately Andoryu will take the turtle down first. But the main thing is how much headcount is left on the side of Smart Omega. Ryota and Andoryu is the two members that's been taken down, allowing Yudu Red Giants to actually extend the fight a little bit longer, allowing Stormy to actually snipe Jom right out.
He's gonna get another one too.
And another one, you're right. Chaknu is next on the chopping block, and Yudu Red Giants didn't seem like they won massively, but because of that snowball effect from Chaknu and Endoryu's death, they got 2 turrets and 2 more kills.
Because Skies has been getting a lot of attention from the world recently as the Sky Prince. A lot of people forget why Stormy is the only other player on this team with a moniker. He is the mage prodigy because he can play any hero and he wants to be aggro. He made a name for himself because even when there were good ults to steal on the Valentina, he would go for Decimate every single time. So when he has access to a hero like Zask, where he can just jump in, do damage without any risk to himself, you can bet he is going to do exactly that.
It is currently 8 minutes into the game, and Yudu Red Giants is once again doing what they have been doing like in the previous game. 1 kill every minute. And every single one of these kills are always of high value target, or they are able to translate that 1 kill into something more. With a total of about 5,000 gold lead from the side of Yudu Red Giants, with a total of 3 turrets taken down, all of which are the T1s of Smart Omega, making things even tougher for Smart Omega to even congregate together and try to settle up for a team fight. You can already see the vast difference of how Smart Omega played when they had the T1 versus when they don't have the T1, such as now.
And that's why this is the situation Omega wanted to avoid, right? Why they didn't want to trade the tower to go for a free kill onto Innocent down in the bottom lane. They know they need more space, more control over the map to make sure that Jom is still able to scale on this Claude. And while I do think that it's still possible for him to do so, there's been a lot more restrictions put on it.
And surprisingly, Smart Omega, they are the one that is going to be executing onto the Lord. Is this really going to go to Andoryu just so easily? Completely unchallenged, or maybe not, as Yudu Red Giants is just coming in from a 2-prong attack. All the way down from the middle lane, they cut in onto Ryota, as well as Andoryu, bringing him down almost immediately, while Innocent pops off with the Zaman Force in order to be able to catch up onto Chaknu. With the Zaman Force intact, he can also be able to bring down the T2 in the middle.
I do like how cheeky that was from Smart Omega. Like, they just tried to rush down the Lord before Red Giants noticed, but well,
that's not gonna work. As you can see, Yudu Red Giants now came in, knocking on the front doors in the middle lane. The Lord comes in to defend Smart Omega and fight for their cause. But unfortunately, the middle lane inhibitor turrets has already been taken down, and Yudu Red Giants have got a very short order, which is to just bring down this baby Lord.
I don't really think it's worth risking that trade for the first Lord of the game. It's really not going to get you very much. Ideally, Smart Omega are going to be able to do some damage to the tier 2 with it. That's about the maximum that they can hope for.
Well, when it comes down to looking at the curve of each game, whenever you are picking up the level whenever you're picking up the 9 minutes Lord, what you're looking out for is to exterminate all of the outer turrets. While for 12 minutes onwards, you will want your Lord to take the inhibitor turrets. So Yudu Red Giants is way off curve. They've already managed to get themselves the first inhibitor in the middle lane, even without the use of a Lord. So this Lord for Smart Omega ultimately did absolutely nothing for them.
And you can see that while they were defending with the Lord as well, Skies is just on the opposite side of the map, pushing the lane, stealing orange buff as well.
That's definitely just all about the macro game that we ultimately can expect from the side of Yudu Red Giants. But this is something a little bit sneaky from the side of Serkais. He's hiding down in the bottom lane, just inhibiting the opponent's jungle. But he's also clearing some of these out just so that he will be able to choke Smart Omega a little bit more.
Yeah, he's just mass farming, basically. And by splitting their resources across the map when Red Giants are already in full control of the game, they're also able to make sure they scout out any movements that Omega might go for. If they see them down bottom, then you push up top lane, and vice versa, thereby not allowing Smart Omega to ever take a step outside of the safety of their base.
So we are essentially back to the curve, whereby both teams are just waiting for the neutral objective in order for them to even have a motivation as to when are we going to push and how are we going to push.
Yeah. Ordinarily, you would see Red Giants try to force something out, but because Skies is on a Roger instead of something like a Ling or Fanny, it's a lot less safe for Red Giants to do so. And it also means that they're a lot stronger in a 5v5 instead. So they're able to just slow down the game, go for the Lord instead, and that does make life very difficult for Smart Omega. They have a lot of CC, but at an 8k deficit, their damage is not going to be enough.
Yudu Red Giants' game plan at this point in time really feels like they are just kind of baiting and switching. They are pretty much going to be putting Cram all the way in the front line to bait something out, but in the meantime, Ryota all the way in the heart of the enemy is just going to be locking down onto Stormy, but Stormy says no, he's back in for more fights, while Innocent off of the sidelines brings Ryota down as well.
Smart Omega failed to check their jungle. They went in, they checked the brushes to make sure nothing was there, and then they forget the one on the left, which Yunes was hiding in the entire time. The moment the fight starts, he just goes straight for Andor Yu, and with no Julian, it's a free Lord for the Red Giants. And with this Lord, the inhibitor should go down quite easily. It's the question of whether or not Omega even survives this.
And now Innocent with the Zaman Force right on top of the inhibitor turret at the top lane. They have managed to successfully bring that one down, as well as Jome. The fight is definitely going to go towards the side of Yudu Red Giants as the Lord fights for their cause, pillages everything that Smart Omega owns and loves. As Ukir, he's going to be hiding behind. He would really wish the Lantern will be able to do a lot, but no, wasn't able to do much at all as their core gets destructed.
A surgical victory from the Yudu Red Giants here, limiting the possibilities of Smart Omega right from start to finish. And it just seemed like child's play for the MSC champs.
I gotta have to say, Yudu Red Giants, boy oh boy, they are still undefeated. So let us just invite Icy Baby back onto the panel once again. My friend, Yudu Red Giants, they